Good evening, guys. It is August 27th, 2023. What is going on? My name is Michael. This is LSU Recruiting HQ. And boy, you know what time it is, guys, man. We are 7 days away. 1 week, guys. The countdown is officially on. It's been on all summer, but it is feeling real. We had a taste of college football this past weekend. And I got to say, man, my gambling addiction is hard at work. We had a rough weekend to start off the 2023 season, but the good news is we don't count this weekend because it's week zero. Um, the bad news is I'll probably lose even more money as the season goes on, but that is a personal problem. And you know what? It's not a problem at all because when there's college football in the air, there can be no problems. That being said, man, we're going to break down LSU and Florida State, a top 10 AP matchup. LSU coming in at number 5, FSU coming in at number 8. Last year, we all know what happened in New Orleans. The Superdome, man, LSU gets the extra point block to end regulation after they come back. Had a chance to tie the game up, send it to overtime. FSU ends up blocking the extra point. And really, it felt doom and gloom for us LSU fans at that point in time last year, not knowing what was going to happen in the future. But I say it turned out all right. LSU went on to win the SEC West and play in Atlanta against Georgia and win 10 games in Brian Kelly's first season as head football coach of LSU. That being said, it was another successful year for Mike Norvell in Florida State last year. They won 10 games as well. They did not play for the ACC championship, but everybody in the preseason expecting this team to do tremendous things and finally be that team that can step up and contend and beat out Clemson for the reign over the ACC like they have been taken over the last couple seasons. Over the last decade, really, Clemson has just dominated the ACC. Well, this is the year, man. Florida State is finally there, and I believe they have arrived on the scene. Mike Norvell has done a tremendous job at FSU recruiting, getting guys out of the portal, and developing talent. He's not going to have the blue chip ratio that other guys and other teams are going to have, but that guy can coach, and everybody knows it. Which makes this game even more scarier because Mike Norvell is a star in the making. FSU is a tremendous football team that has great players just like LSU does. It all starts with Jordan Travis, man, a guy who is a Heisman hopeful this year, had a huge junior season, including torching LSU in the Superdome and really having a coming out party last year and kind of stating that he is one of the top tier guys in the country. FSU returns him and returns a lot of starters on offense, and the guys that they lost, they replaced with huge portal additions. A guy like Keon Coleman, a star wide receiver from Michigan State. If you haven't heard that name before, get ready because he is going to have a tremendous season as long as he stays healthy. Him and Jordan Travis have been on the same page all camp long. And then you obviously have Johnny Wilson, guy who was there last year, tremendous athlete, super tall, physical receiver, and just a guy that can go out there and make plays for Florida State. They return the running back crew from last year led by Trey Benson. A huge delight to have in that backfield with 3 or 4 different guys that they can hand the ball off to. A kind of similar situation to LSU, where they go in there having 3 or 4 guys that they know they can count on and who can run the rock. That offense was explosive last year, and they're only going to get better with time. And so they've had a whole offseason to get things going. Jordan Travis under center again. Mike Norvell running his system and getting things the way he wants it. A tremendous team over there at FSU. But let's talk about a little bit about the game. Obviously, you guys know it's happening on a Sunday night, prime time, ABC, LSU, Florida State. I believe it's 7:30 Eastern. Pretty sure that's around the time it was last year, I believe. Don't quote me on that if I'm wrong. Obviously, everybody knows the big news with LSU coming out this week. Mason Smith is going to be ineligible for the FSU game for a ordeal that took back in 2021 before NIL was a legal thing. Him and Keishawn Butte signed autographs and received compensation for those autographs. Keishawn was able to serve his suspension last year. Mason Smith, being hurt last year, was not able to. So the NCAA has cracked down and suspended him for the first game of this season. A lot of people are worried about that, and don't get me wrong, it is a tremendous loss for LSU. That is a star player, a former 5-star recruit from out there in Terrebonne, and just a huge presence on the inside. The pass rushing ability from the inside defensive tackle position is unwarranted. You don't just find guys like that, guys that are 6'5", 300 pounds, that can move guys physically out the way and get to the quarterback. Really would have taken some pressure off of Harold Perkins and the pass rushers on the edge. If you can blow some plays up in the middle, get some run stuffs. But I believe LSU is going to be fine. They have a bunch of guys they've been counting on, and they've known about this all summer, so they've been preparing the guys. You have guys like Jordan Jefferson from West Virginia that have come in and taken that defensive tackle position. And then you have a guy like Mekhi Wingo, who started in place of Mason Smith all season last year. Got rewarded with the number 18 yesterday on Saturday, which is a huge honor, and he is going to be a star player for this role, this unit. He's going to fill that role that Jaquelin Roy took last year. But the problem is it was going to be him and Mason Smith. So this game, it's going to be a lot of pressure on Mekhi Wingo to make plays, and I'm fully capable of believing that he can do that. You have guys like Tank, Jacobian Guillory, Big Tank in there in the middle. Guy's huge, man. The guy can blow up some run plays, and that's going to be the key to this game. Stopping the run, making these wide receivers have to make plays on the edge. Obviously, everybody knows about the issues that LSU has had in the secondary. Not necessarily issues, but they're rebuilding back there, man. They're getting guys out of the transfer portal. You go get guys like Denver Harris. You get guys like Zy Alexander, who's looking like he's going to be the number one corner out of Southeastern, a guy that you're counting on to play big-time games against big-time receivers in the best league in the nation. It is not a secret that this league is full of talent, and those guys are going to have their hands full all week, and it is a tough test in Florida State week 1. You got guys like Johnny Wilson, Keon Coleman, like I said, that can go out there and make plays. They were able to do that last year on LSU, hit a couple big plays on deep balls. That's got to change. These corners are going to have to step up. You like where you're at with the safety position with Major Burns and Greg Brooks and guys like that. Talks have been that Sage Ryan is going to be playing a lot more corner this year. With a guy with smaller size but very athletic guy, a former 5-star recruit as well, at a Lafayette Christian. He could be the difference maker, and that guy you need to step up into that role. You've obviously depleted your depth with J.K. Johnson breaking his foot in fall camp, so you're down a corner there. You have the situation with Denver Harris struggling to get his things still together. It's just been a rough offseason for that defensive back room. Hopefully they can come out there game 1 and prove it all wrong. But as a LSU fan, let's talk about some of the positives, right? You have Brian Kelly, you have Jaden Daniels, you have Mike Denbrock again this year. These guys have a system. They weren't flawless last year by any means, but they were able to score over 35 points a game last year. And to hear in the offseason that, they were kind of being conservative last year with the offense and still able to average 35 a game is very impressive. You already know about the offensive line. Will Campbell gets rewarded the number 7. He's going to be your starting left tackle. You're pretty much returning the entire offensive line. It looks like Emory Jones is going to slide in that right tackle to right tackle position. But you could easily see as Lance Hurd, a true freshman out of Neville, get in there and do some work at right tackle as well. That could come later on in the season, kind of like how Emory Jones kind of filled in there at the beginning and then kind of established that starting role. That's kind of how that could go this year. But, yeah, you have Charles Turner in there. You have guys that you can count on. You have a steady backfield, I believe. You have the emergence of what it seems like as a true freshman star and Caleb Jackson back there, breaking tackles, making plays all the fall camp. You have a guy like John Emery returning. You have a guy like Josh Williams returning. You have a guy like Armani Goodwin returning. And I know I'm leaving somebody out. Please forgive me. I can't think of all of their names at this time. And then you have a guy like Malik Neighbors, a safety blanket for Jane Daniels wherever he needs a catch and to get some yards, to look that guy's way because he's always open. He's always making the catch. But I see this being a big year for Brian Thomas, a guy like Brian Thomas, former five-star recruit, a tremendous athlete. You've seen glimpses, you've seen flashes, but the real question for LSU is this year is who's going to be that guy behind Malik Neighbors? Who's that going to be that guy who steps up and makes plays and takes pressure off of Malik Neighbors so Malik Neighbors can still create havoc within a defense and they can't just blanket him. They have to worry about other guys as well. So who are those guys going to be on the outside like Brian Thomas, like guys like that? You have Mason Taylor and in the tight end role that you're finally there at tight end where you can say you have some depth. And in the offensive side of the ball, it looks tremendous. LSU is going to be a line of scrimmage team. They're going to thrive on the defensive line. They're going to thrive on the offensive line. And that is going to be their strategy this year, man. They are going to be a solid offense. I have no doubt about they'll be able to move the ball. It's all about really that secondary, and we'll see if they can clean up the special teams. Special teams is arguably what lost them this football game last year. And if that doesn't change, this is not going to be another season where you could be talking about a national championship because that is the expectation at LSU. It's always going to be 12-0 national championship, and until that doesn't happen, that is always the expectation. That being said, this team, I believe their ceiling is obviously 12-0. I believe the floor is only 8 wins. Saying that now obviously sounds good. The Tigers have a tremendous September schedule. Early in the season, the first 6 games, probably their toughest stretch of the season. You have a lot of trap games, a lot of games that a lot of people are expecting you to win, but a lot of solid teams in that grouping in a stretch where you play 3 out of the 4 games on the road. In the SEC, it's always difficult. And then that being said, you already have a top 10 matchup to kick off the season. That's not including the Alabama game later on in the year as well. So this LSU team has a lot of expectations this year, but I believe Brian Kelly has this team ready. I believe they'll be ready Sunday night, man, and I'm ready to see them showcase that against Florida State, who is a tremendous opponent, a team that is easy to root for, came up doing the right thing. Not a team full of 4- and 5-star guys. Out of the recruiting, they've done a great job in the portal. They got guys like Jaheim Bell from South Carolina, a tremendous tight end, and just guys to fill in. Unfortunately, the defensive lineman, I believe is still ineligible for them, which, the NCAA is an absolute joke at the moment. But yeah, he's ineligible, I believe, but that could easily change between now and next Sunday. But like I said, for all us LSU fans, man, we're super excited. I'm super excited. I know you guys are. And if you're still watching, man, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Let me know how you guys are feeling about Florida State, how you guys are feeling about LSU, man. And we will see you guys later on this week. We're going to be doing these every week, breaking down all the games, breaking down the FSU game probably that following Monday, talking about it, breaking it down. We're going to be doing all that. So if you guys could, please subscribe. Like the channel, tell your friends about us, man. We're going to be here all football season, and I know you guys will be too, man. Y'all have a great rest of y'all's weekend. I will see you next time.